Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome on the Sunset Safari. My name is Brent Leo Smith, and it's great to be back. I've been away for about 2 weeks, so really good to be back in the bush, and it's amazing how it's greened up around me. So it's almost like coming back to a different bush, even though it is still really, really hot. It's 33 degrees Celsius, 92 Fahrenheit, and thanks to all of those who sent through the update about a leopard at the Djuma Dam at around 12:30 today. It seems like the general direction from what we can make out was northwest, so we're going to go have a look in this area. So really great to be back, and isn't it amazing how the bush has changed so quickly, and also it's so hot, it's almost like this oppressive weight sitting on us at the moment. So that hopefully means that the leopard, whoever it might be, I think it might be Karula, hasn't moved off too far. So we're going to go have a quick look, and then Scott and Andrew are going to be out a little bit later on the bushwalk. So if we don't get any luck, we can send them there on foot and they can go do some tracking. So exciting, and I've got Willem, aka the wildebeest, on the back of the vehicle, and we have Jess and Nikki in final control. So let's get going and see what is out there in this wonderful wilderness we live in. Very important to have sun cream and hats on at this time of the year. And this is our spring, so summer's still coming. So I think we're definitely going to hit some temperatures into the high 30s, 40s centigrade, and well over 100 in Fahrenheit. But I do love this time of the year, even though it has greened up quite a lot, and we did have that nice early roll. I've been doing a little bit of research into weather patterns and that, and it does look like this dry, very dry spell is going to continue with the clouds and whatnot where they're sitting. I will post some of those satellite images and some of the scientific data that goes along with that, and guessing how the weather is going to progress. But it's always a dangerous game trying to guess what the weather is going to do. So I'll leave it to the experts, and we'll see what happens. Isn't that incredible? These poor catfish. I think we are definitely, I keep having my fingers crossed that we're going to find a hungry leopard who's decided it's dry enough to brave this mud wallow that's what's left of the Djuma Dam and try to get an easy catfish meal. There were some fantastic pictures posted from a reserve to the south of us here, still in the Sabi Sands, of a young male leopard grabbing catfish out of a very similar wallow. So you guys definitely need to keep an eye on that Djuma cam, and hopefully we might find some of that spectacular behavior happening here. Amazing, you can even hear them from here. So we've got an update from Morning Glory, an X marks the spot update. Morning Glory, I'm going to ask you just to be a little bit more specific. It's where that leopard disappeared, and says it's at that jackalberry. So just let me know whether it's this jackalberry that's on the dam wall or the jackalberry at the entrance to the drainage line that comes in. So I think from what I'm hearing that it is the jackalberry towards the entrance. So we're going to scoot along and go check Mvubu Road, see if we find any tracks. And as I said, it's sort of that really oppressive heat at the moment, sort of really heavy on us. So hopefully she hasn't moved too far, or he hasn't moved too far. everyone for all the very warm welcomes back. And just remember, you can also send me questions, and you can do that by emailing us on questions@wildearth.tv or use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. So, for those of you who might be a little bit new, you might notice my head wander off the vehicle quite frequently for the next little bit. And what I'm doing is actually looking for the footprints of this leopard. Hopefully they are there somewhere, but we're also going to be stopping quite a bit and listening. Hopefully we will be able to hear alarm calls. But to start off, I'm always very excited about the wildflowers in the first rain. And you must remember, some of these wildflowers will only flower once every 3 or 4 years, and some even once every 10 years. This one is not one of those, I'm afraid. This is one of the more common ones we're going to see. And it is a triclysera, or also known quite commonly as a roadside pimpernel. They are quite common on the edge of a lot of roads, and specifically main tow roads, and slightly disturbed soils, but still yet very, very pretty. There. So that's also one of the first and last wildflowers we'll get through the year. They seem to last quite a long time, and they do flower at different times. It also gives us a nice chance to just stop and listen again. We are heading into that area where we think that leopard might have gone. So, Jack, good afternoon and welcome on the Sunset Safari. Jack's wondering if there's a second vehicle out today. Unfortunately not. There'll be myself and Scott out. Scott on the walk and myself in the vehicle. The tripod has gone for a little bit of TLC, but we'll be back this evening, so we'll be back up to 2 vehicles tomorrow morning. to find these animals, so north was the general direction that leopard went. So spotting a leopard at this time of the day, while it's still quite hot, is sometimes a little bit challenging. They're definitely more than likely going to be very flat cats unless they've got a kill up in the tree. So looking into every little bit of dark bit of shade, listening very carefully. Could be a tiny little bird like a rattling testicular or a dwarf mongoose that might spot them for us and just let us know exactly where that animal is. So as I hear yesterday, it was the monkeys that led us to Karula because she actually caught one. And Jamie did say she heard the monkeys alarm calling at around 12:30, so possibly spotted her. It's always good to check big termite mounds with a nice big jackalberry or African ebony like that. Really favoured spot for leopards when it's quite hot. And as we move further and further into the sort of wet season or hot season for us, leopards will quite often use trees to sleep in to get off the ground and escape a bit of that oppressive heat. There's a bit more breeze higher up, so it always pays to check, and they do definitely have trees that they favour. We've got no tracks coming out of here yet, which is a very positive sign for later in the drive. But I think she's possibly resting in this very short area of about 1 kilometre between the dam and this little link road through to the Gallagher waterhole. But as we all know with Madame Krula, she's definitely one of the more difficult leopards I've ever tracked in my life, and doesn't tend to stick to a plan like most leopards, so she could definitely throw a spanner in our works. But we will wait for the guests who are staying in the lodge to get out, and then we'll go have a closer look there if we don't find any tracks on this little section through here. Almost hope to find her just lying in the cool sand. So nothing coming out, which is really positive for later when it gets a bit cooler. So guys who are monitoring that Djuma dam can keep a listen out for alarm calls. Definitely, I think Scott will probably go take a walk through there. They might have a bit more success because once the guests are out, then go to the exact last position she was. And while we're driving around, we just found a shady spot, and we saw that triclysera or roadside pimpernel a little bit earlier, which is that wonderful bright red flower. And Stephanie from Switzerland, she says it looks very similar to a lion's eye, or reminds her of a lion's eye, and wonders if they're related, or whether we just have the same plant but it's called by a different name. So Stephanie, unfortunately, I don't think the only lion's eye I know from out here, and I have to get out the big flower book, is a lion's eye hibiscus, which is yellow and with a dark center and not red. So it is possible, but what I know as a lion's eye is not related to the triclysera at all. But I will try have a look here quickly. It's always good to stop and listen as well. Okay. Those are only the common names. I was looking for the Latin names. Lion's eye hibiscus. Well, Stephanie, you are very, very clever. So I know this is a roadside pimpernel or triclysera. There is a triclyceras that is also called the lion's eye. It's not the same as that, but very, very similar. And that is also called the lion's eye. There's also a lion's eye hibiscus. But well done, Stephanie from Switzerland. Very, very good. So related, but not quite exactly the same. That's amazing. See, that's the best thing about being out in the bush, and especially now at this time of year with all the flowers and that coming, you learn something new every day. And I think that's possibly one of the best things about what we do, is we're constantly learning, we're constantly seeing new things, and it is an absolute privilege, and it's actually incredible to just be out in this wilderness every single day as a job. Let's continue on. And we're going to leave this area where this leopard's disappeared into. I'm just going to wait till I hear the game drives come out, and that will give us a chance to go look closely into that drainage line right in front of the lodge. I will definitely keep a lookout for some more flowers while we move along. And the nice thing with a lot of the flowers is also we're going to get a lot more butterflies. Of course, very important to take enough water out with you at this time of the year. So obviously, one of the things we speculate and talk about a lot in the bush is rain and rainfall, and whether we're going to have a wet year or a dry year. And we have had some early rain, and that's caused this wonderful green flush that's all around us. And James from Canvas is saying, what do I think? Do I think with the impending rains that the dams will full? Will there be a lot of rain? James, I'm still under the impression, even though we've had this early rain, I still think it's going to be a very dry year, and I don't think we're going to have too much rain. And I think it's a very strong possibility that the water holes will actually dry up completely. There is quite interesting, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little bit of a stuff out there on the internet with what's happening with weather cycles at the moment, and we have gone through in most parts of Africa, or especially southern and East Africa, you sort of work almost, it's on average about 7-year cycles. 7 years of wet and 7 years of dry, and we had a very wet sort of 8 years. Last year was not that wet, but and now coming through now, I think we're going into an extended dry cycle. So I don't think we're going to get too much rain. I'm sure it will rain, and we might get some spectacular thunderstorms, but I don't think we're going to get a lot of rain this rainy season. And if we do, I still think the majority of our big rains are going to fall after the new year this year. As I'm sure quite a few of you know, my first sort of drive back after leave, and Mike in Florida was wondering, did I enjoy my leave? I did very much so, Mike. Well, as I think some of you might have seen, James and I attended a very fancy wedding in Johannesburg, and they required us to have 2 different outfits, and that was lots of fun. And then I spent some time with some friends in Johannesburg, and then I was sneaking around here for a little bit, but not working, but just going on walks and things and relaxing around the pool. And I also then went to see a very good friend of mine for his birthday in Hoedspruit, which is the closest town where I live and my family lives, and we went out on game drive and went tracking lions, and we found a new hyena den and saw quite a lot of other animals, so that was also very, very, very great. And well, it was a very nice, relaxing leave. I'm back, well rested and ready to find lots of animals. And lots of flowers and plants and birds. Everything that we might see out here. As the flower season sort of starts, we're going to be spending quite a bit of time looking at flowers, I'm sure. And Shannon was wondering, do I have a favorite flower? And Shannon, in fact, I do. And it's got the most wonderful Latin name as well. It's Gloriosa superba. So obviously glorious and superb. And it is a common name is a flame lily. I do have a picture of one somewhere. And that is possibly my favorite flower. And Lynn's also wondering, are there any flowers we can eat? There are a few, but you can eat some of the sages, not the flowers themselves, but the plants, and the wild basil and the wild aniseed. And there's actually quite a lot you can eat. You can also eat one that's quite cheekily named in its common name is a mother-in-law's tongue. Obviously not the best tasting plant out here in the bush, but still edible and has a very high moisture content. And obviously, because I said I think it's going to be quite dry, I will try have a look for certain plants and that. So if you had to be in a survival situation, you would be able to obtain water from. birds coming back, which is fantastic. And Genevieve in particular, I'm just going to scoot past the water pump. So Genevieve is particularly interested about a bird called a violet-backed starling. It's got some other old names, a plum-collared starling or an amethyst starling. And Genevieve was wondering, she said they saw one once from a great distance with Mark. I've actually saw one when I was in Hoedspruit, but I haven't seen them back here in the sands yet. She can't find any information about why they migrate, and she wonders why the other starlings don't migrate. Well, Genevieve, violet-backs are not the only starlings that migrate. Another starling we do get here, so a wattle starling, they do migrate in quite large flocks. Violet-backed I will get back to you on. I seem to remember something in the recess of my mind. I'll see if I can jog it about why they do move. They are incredibly beautiful birds, iridescent purple or plum coloured almost, violet. That's quite fair. The little Nyala. Hey guys, I'm just going to be on the radio with Scotty for a second while we enjoy these Nyala. Copy, thanks Scott. Scott, last position of that Ingler that left the Djuma waterhole was at that Jackalberry that Kunyuma had the baboon killing. There are still Mlungus in camp, so I didn't drive down there further, but I have checked around Gallagher shortcut to the shortcut to Gallagher waterhole. I can't find any tracks coming out or crossing in Mvubu. Okay, so just confirm the last position of those in Love was at Ingers. Copy, thank you very much. Sorry about that, guys. Scotty's just getting out, so giving him a quick update. Much bigger groups than we even get here. So not completely unusual, but it is really nice to have them around. And where you have very big groups of Nyala, your bushbuck population actually suffers because they feed almost on the exact same things, but Nyala have a slight advantage in that they're slightly taller. And Nyala are a relatively new species, and their distribution is relatively small compared to that of a bushbuck. So they only occur from sort of the Tugela River naturally. They've been introduced into other areas. From the Tugela River in KwaZulu-Natal up to sort of to the Drakensberg, but not too far inland, and then up into Mozambique, and specifically only up to about halfway through Mozambique, not even all the way through yet. They're probably a new species that is spreading and would have spread, and then only in this area they've come in from that the Mozambique coastal plain along the major rivers, and then from there they've spread. But that's all very recent. And where there's a bushbuck occurs all the way from the Cape through the Central African rainforests up into the edges of the Sahel and desert areas in West Africa, and so far more sort of widely distributed, and also far more tolerant of various habitats, from rainforest to sort of those sort of drainage lines and whatnot on the edge of the very dry areas. I mean, up into Botswana, Zambia, full of bushbuck, Congo, Angola, all over the place. So far more widespread and an older species. So we're going to go have a quick turnaround and go see what Scotty spotted right outside our house. Unfortunately, we're going to have to go past the water pump again. When I was a kid out in the bush, we used to have a name. My grandfather made a name for those water pumps, because they go tuku 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 tuku. It's a banger pump, so it's a very old pump. It's an old Lister. Incredible how these old water pumps survive, and very, very basic, very easy to maintain, just a little bit noisy. We've been chatting a little bit about how I personally think it's going to be a very dry season still this year, and we're just going to go past Tuku Tuku again, or the banger pump. And we have a visitor on the screen. Let me just see if I can spot this. There's a bug. There we go. And Laura is wondering what will happen to all the animals. Will they be okay? Well, Laura, any of the weak and infirmed animals will probably die. And these dry and wet cycles obviously are very good for the bush. I mean, sometimes if a certain animal is becoming too populated, you have this... Sorry guys, to the radio, Game Club Radio. Sorry, 1 second, I'll be back with you. Sorry, last station here again. Copy, thanks. Hello, pigs. So, not quite yet, but not too far off. We should start seeing some little piglets around. But sorry, Laura, we'll just finish off with what we were chatting about there. So, yes, certain animals will take it quite hard, and it's generally your grazing and browsing species, so the grass and tree eaters, and it is a time of plenty for the predators, generally these very dry patches. What happens in that is it does remove a lot of the weak and infirmed, and ensures a very healthy population. So I know from a human point of view it might seem quite nasty and harsh, and especially since if it does get very, very dry, you do see some animals in very bad condition, and we don't interfere. Those animals will be picked off by the hyenas and the lions and the leopard and the wild dogs and the other predators around. Two girls here, and I wonder who can remember how to tell the difference between a male and female warthog. So if any of you know the difference between a male and female warthog, especially when one is looking straight on, like this one off to the right, you can send your answers through to us, and you can do that by sending us an email on questions@wildearth.tv, or you can use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. So here we have two of the same gender. The one on the right, the one we're looking at now, is slightly younger than the one on the left. You can see body size and tusk size on the one on the left is a bit bigger, but they are of the same gender. If we look carefully as this one comes a bit closer to us, you can see obviously those nice big impressive curved upper tusks. Now that is not their main defensive weapon. Now if we look carefully, we see that small bottom tusk. Now that rubs up against that upper tusk and becomes incredibly sharp, like a knife blade. and those are called tushes, those bottom tusks, and that is what they will actually do that does the damage to a lion or a leopard who tries to catch a warthog. And they can do some very serious damage with those little tushes, those little under tusks there that are very, very sharp. Well done to Donna, who was the first to get that right. And male warthogs have an extra set, so they have 2 pairs of warts, so 4 in total, where the females, like these ones here, only have 2. Anyway, I just heard what sounded like a tree being pushed over just up to our east here, so that's a good sign that there's some elephants in the area. So a lot of you guys got that warthog question right, so very, very well done. So obviously you could also see on those females their teats. And they were quite long and they were hanging down, and that is obviously more prominent in the females because of the being suckled on. And there we go, and we exactly almost where we heard that tree being pushed over. There's some elephants. Bellies. Try to get the sun in a better angle for you guys. So I can see 4 and 3 right here. There's some more. It sounds like there could be some more behind us here. So a little family group. When I heard where they were, I was hoping they might head down to the waterhole. They still might. Hello, old lady. You can see this is definitely the dominant. She's a lot bigger than the others. So when you are close to elephants like this, their body language is very important in how you read what's happening, and to ensure that we are safe, and of course that the animals are safe, more importantly. Oh, look at that, she's going for wild asparagus. Look, she's got it. Oh, that's a tasty little treat that's obviously just sprung up after the rain. Tiny little wild asparagus she just ate there. And now she's after the little flaky bark acacia right next to us. Obviously the ellies will be also very, very happy, and all the trees are in flush, lots of nice new leaves. There you go. It always amazes me that animals are able to just munch straight through those incredibly big, sharp thorns on a lot of the trees out here. And I know I've been lucky enough, I've done elephant captures and all sorts of things, so I've actually managed to feel the inside of an elephant's mouth, and it doesn't feel that tough, but it just is, and that's what's really, really incredible. And you can see how close she is, and just from her body language, completely relaxed. She has found water earlier today. We can see there's a little bit of darker mud on the inside of her ear there, but quite a while ago. The rest of it's dried, and the others don't seem to have too much water on them. So there's no tiny babies here, but you can see there's a little young one, probably about 2 years, just over my shoulder here. And Steve was wondering, how much does a baby elephant weigh? Steve, when they're born, they weigh over 100 kilograms already. And Steve would also like to know that the mothers give birth standing up. They do quite often. It's unusual for them to lie down to give birth. I have seen them give birth 3 or 4 times, and all times it has been standing up. I know there are records of them lying down to give birth, but that is unusual. That maybe it's with a particularly difficult pregnancy. But yeah, they're incredible animals. And imagine that. Imagine having to eat sort of between 200 and 300 kilograms of vegetable matter a day to get your sustenance. So that causes them to be very active. Even when it's quite hot, they will rest for certain periods, but they are active almost throughout the day and night, because they do need to eat so much in a day to keep those massive bodies of theirs energized and on the move. Hello, little one. So close on that, and he comes through that gap there on the nose there of him. I saw a little bump or protrusion. I don't know, I think it's just a funny angle. Little female there. You can see how delicately she's using her foot with her trunk to get at some little tasty morsel on the ground there. Not quite lucky as Mom, who found that wild asparagus a few minutes ago. Comes the next one. Oh, I think she's found a spot to have a little scratch. Getting her head hooked in behind that little concrete in there. No, not too itchy yet though. So plants, or specifically acacias, like this one that you can see in the foreground with these great big leaves on it, have developed defenses against animals like elephants. Obviously, if they had to stay in one area, they could decimate all the little acacias in an area. So that the acacia specifically, they will almost communicate chemically between each other, and they will release a pheromone into the air that the other acacias are able to pick up on, of the same species. And what that does then is that they start releasing a huge amount of tannin into their leaves, which makes the leaves quite unpalatable, very, very bitter. Hello, little lady. Yes. Decided to say hello to them. So it's amazing how plants have developed their own set of sort of defenses against these incredibly large pachyderms that are able to eat that much amount of vegetable matter. So obviously the plants want them to move along and not spend too much time, otherwise they'll decimate that specific species in that area. Okay, I'm just looking, there's some more coming through. I just want to move the vehicle. That first big female is off to the left of us now, just behind the closest one. And there she is at the back. And So nice big adult female. And Judith from North Carolina. I was wondering, is she pregnant? I think it's highly unlikely, Judith. That little 2-year-old is more than likely hers, so I don't think she'll be ready for that just yet. Maybe later on in the year, but I think she's not pregnant at the moment. She has a nice big female there. So from the initial 4, it looks like there's another 3 or 4 coming out of the bush behind us. We'll see if we can get into a better position. Oh, there's a tiny baby down there. Let's go see if we can have a look. Again, when we approach elephants like this off the road, I mean, we judge their behavior before we came off the road, and they all do look very relaxed. Obviously, you just got to be a little bit more careful when approaching a mother with a very young baby. She could be a first-time mother. She could have had some stress recently, so we just approach very, very slowly. I keep my words very calm, very even. Let them know I'm not a threat, and they are not moving off. I'm not showing any signs of being unrelaxed. So all well. There's the little guy. And one of the good ways to judge that is if a little baby can still fit under its mom's belly. That's how you know it's still under a year. Also got another female who's just moved up right next to us, feeding off this variable bush willow. You can just hear that next to us, that she strips the leaves from this tree. Absolutely immense power. I definitely think I've seen this female before, just looking at her tusks. Quite difficult for you guys to see through that bush. So I'm going to try scoot a skosh forward. So this is a much bigger herd than we possibly initially thought. And just more eddies just popping out of everywhere, all around us. I can still hear some more to the east. Just hear the branches breaking in the thick bush beyond these eddies. I can see a little one sort of more going through the motions of eating than really eating. It's still be very reliant on mom's milk, but still mastering the use of that trunk. Practice makes perfect, of course. It's so funny when you watch baby ellies. Sometimes they only manage to pick up one tiny leaf and attempt to put it in their mouth and drop it. And this little guy looks like he's getting the hang of it. One leaf at a time. So as we're sitting here with all these elephants all around us, Pamela is wondering if I've ever seen a baby Eddie have a temper tantrum. Many times, Pamela, and some quite spectacular ones. I've been very fortunate in a lot of the areas I've worked and I've grown up. I've often been surrounded by elephants, and particularly in northern Botswana, I mean, you could see 1,000 in an afternoon at the end of the dry season. So lots of temper tantrums, and it is quite funny, but you got to be quite careful, because a baby Eddie throwing a temper tantrum doesn't necessarily need to be at you or your game drive vehicle. It can incite quite a bit of aggression in the other elephants, so you do need to watch out for them when they're doing that, but it is very cute and very funny. Sneak forward. They might be moving out to hopefully a slightly more open spot. Always with moving with elephants, you want to keep your vehicle yields as low as possible, your movements as fluid as possible. So now I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 ellies, but there's definitely a few more still around that I can just hear. They are about to go into some very thick bush, so we'll stay with them as long as we can. And then I've also heard that the game drives are out from Djuma, so it might be worth going to go have a look for that female leopard that disappeared around from the Djuma dam. So as you can see there, they're disappearing. It's getting quite a lot thicker there. So we're not going to follow them into that thick stuff. They've got a few babies around, and we've had such a wonderful sighting. There's no need to chase them or put too much pressure on them. And I think I know exactly where they're going to come out. So if we don't get any luck with the leopard, we can always head back towards their general direction and where they might pop out into a much more open area. More conducive for us following them. Bye elephant bottom. So while these ellies disappear off into the distance, and they're on their feet, and so is Scott on the bushwalk, so we're going to cross across and see what they've been up to on Shank's pony.
Good afternoon everyone and welcome to the bushwalk. It's great to be out on foot again, and there's Andrew on camera, and I've actually never been on Andrew with the bushwalk, so this is our debut together, which is great fun. Stefan is also with us, as well as Alex, so it's a four-man team today, all got various tasks on the go. I'm not sure if you've seen that mosquito buzzing around the screen, but it's about to land on Andrew's hand and I may have to get rid of it for him. Anyway, let's continue. Looks to be leaving him. You may be able to see a spider web very faintly here, and this spider web has been left here during the daytime so that its owner can return easily at night time and rebuild the web between these bushes that it's connected to. Now I initially checked to my right to see if we could find the spider hiding on the foliage. It wasn't there, and then we came across, followed this little line of webbing, which is going to become harder for you to see, up until this branch here. And when we did get here, we found a tiny little bark spider. I'm not sure where it's gone now though. It seems to have done a runner, but we did find the tiny, very well camouflaged bark spider. It was probably only the size of this tiny corner of the twig that I'm using, and by the time you guys got to us, it's done a runner. But interesting how some spiders will reconsume their webs at night time and return the following night to rebuild it, where it can catch insects that fly around at night. Early in the morning it gobbles the whole thing up so as to not waste any nutrients, and then they continue with their business. Now we're just going to go back the way we came so that we don't break this line. There we go. And as we walk the bush, we need to be quite careful of any potentially dangerous animals. So there's a few tools that we have, one of which is a sock filled with ash from the campfire. And as you can see, it's blowing right into Andrew's clean camera lens, sorry about that, in a southerly direction. So we're going to be walking straight into the wind, but we are going to be zigzagging in a bit of a westerly direction. But it's important to take note of the wind when on foot. We're also going to have to wiggle and weave. Andrew's got quite a long antenna poking up above a 20-pound backpack that he's got strapped to his back with various equipment and technology. So we are going to be taking it slowly, and the aim of this walk is to find you guys some interesting little things to look at, possibly some big things, but as soon as we do find anything big and dangerous, we will move off and call the vehicles in to come and have a closer look. I thought I heard something off to the right there, but I wasn't sure what it was. So when in doubt, stop, listen, look around, and it's one of the greatest things you can be taught when walking on foot through the African wilderness. Take your time, never be in a rush, and by stopping and listening to your surroundings, it'll prevent you from getting into any dangerous situations quickly and startling any animals. Now we've come into this area because we're currently doing a lot of tests with this walking rig, and this is one area that we haven't tested for signal yet. So we're testing the signal. Who knows what we might bump into here, but we haven't come here with any major goals. It's not like we're expecting to find lion or leopard. But the beauty of being on safari, albeit on foot or in a vehicle, is that you do not know what you're going to bump into. Just going to turn off the game drive channel. If we do find anything interesting, we'll be sure to let the guys know. I've just heard something rustling in the undergrowth up ahead. It's just a little francolin, which I thought it would be, and I don't think we're going to be able to show it to you. But again, as soon as I heard that crackle, I wasn't certain what it was. I stopped, listened, just made sure it wasn't anything potentially dangerous. It could have been the tail of a lion flicking, which is a sign that they were getting agitated, or it could have been something bigger like a buffalo or an elephant gently feeding. Thankfully, the vegetation is becoming a lot more moist as the season unfolds, the summer moist season unfolds, and what that means is there's a little bit less dry, crunchy leaves. Oh, well, this is interesting. I don't think you're going to be able to hear these birds, but there's a chance you might. I think the audio systems have changed since I was last on the bushwalk. But it was a rattling cisticola, a very small bird that will alarm call at just about anything, including us. Here it goes again. Andrew, are you picking that up? Okay. So, a good example of how birds and other animals will sometimes even alarm call at us. And these guys are renowned for sending us on wild chases hoping to find a leopard, but often finding nothing. Excuse me. Just going to keep checking the wind as we're going along. It will vary as we head slightly down into a little riverbed. And what I'm hoping to do is get onto a game trail where we will be able to cover ground more easily and use a natural highway that the animals often like to stick to. Okay, so we've got a bit of a game trail here that comes down and crosses through fence, responsible for this small excavation. Again, there you can see the smoothened area of where the elephant's pad would have pressed down. And elephants seem to be doing quite a lot of excavating at this time of the year, even though there's a lot of fresh green shoots all around us. In the last few weeks I've noticed a whole amounts of mounds dug up from elephants trying to access the roots of the various trees. And it's interesting watching how their diet and habits, feeding habits, will change throughout the year, feeding on the most nutritious plants available at any given time. I think we can squeeze through here. Now I think this is a old zebra wood tree. It's an incredibly hard wood, and even though this has probably been dead for many years now, it's still quite hard. And what I love looking at is the beautiful lichens and fungus that tend to grow on these zebra woods. You get these most wonderful shades of green growing in and around the bark. And if you come around onto the other side, Andrew, if possible, no, I think I'm asking for too much here now, but there are also a few other more dim lime green colors over here. Very hard wood. A walking safari. The animals in this area have become accustomed to human voices, and if they hear us before we get too close to them, then we run less of a risk of actually surprising them. Whereas if we surprise them, then you can expect them to get a fright, and when animals get a fright, they either run off, which is ideally what you find out sooner rather than later, so we can take you on more and more walks. And that way you're getting the best of both worlds. You get much closer to the bigger and dangerous animals in a vehicle and can watch them in a far more relaxed. Whereas when you are on foot, you which way to go? Sorry, bud. Oh, I led you into a trap. And no. I need to show everyone the wounds. So, it's not easy being a wild earth cameraman. And as you can see, Is it autofocus or manual? Oh, there we go. He's got a little bit of blood on his leg there. It's tough out here in Africa, but thankfully so are the cameramen. And he got caught up on a, looks like it's a small mobthorn acacia, but I can't be certain. Nasty little hook thorns. And other acacia species. Continue exploring on foot. I hope you have a good time with Brent. I'm not sure what he's got for you, what his plans are, but the
leopard that was being spotted on the Djuma camp at around 12:30, so sort of midday today. I was hoping she might not move too far because of the heat, but if it is Karula, she could literally be anywhere. My gut tells me she's in this thick system of drainage lines to the west of us here. But also remember, you're always welcome to ask us questions about whatever else is going on in the bush, or what we're seeing, what we're chatting about, and you can do that by emailing us on questions@wildearth.tv or use the hashtag #SafariLive on Twitter. So our plan now, big loop around this area, maybe stop and listen for a little bit somewhere else, see if we get any luck with that female leopard in this area. Just looking at the tracks I saw there, I'm quite confident is Karula. Gremlins there. I know you guys can hear me, but now fortunately you can see what I'm seeing again on this live African safari here. At the moment we're working on Djuma private game reserve, and hopefully we have some leopard luck. Elephants blocking the road. Now this particular bush that's been dragged here is a sickle bush, and not very good for our tires. Very dense, very good for giving flat tires. So I'm going to remove it from the road. And it doesn't have thorns, it's got spines. And this is actually a mixture of the two worst flat tire trees. It's a sickle bush and a zebra wood. And zebra wood is possibly the worst. So they don't have proper thorns, but they've got modified or spines, which are basically modified branchlets. And I'll show you a closer look at one now. So unlike a thorn that doesn't have anything on it, you can see too close. There you go. How's this? A dashboard. Yeah. So you can see this is actually a little bit of a modified branchlet that's come to a sharp edge. Zebra wood is one of the densest woods we get here. So even though those huge white acacia thorns, we can actually drive over those with not too much worry about flat tires. But these guys will definitely give us a flat tire. Leadwoods, sicklebush and zebra wood are the three worst of the flat tire trees we get out here. So that's why I moved them off. Hopefully we won't get any flat tires today. Generally I like to leave the flat tires to Scott and James. They seem to be the experts at getting them, and I tend to prefer not to change tires while on game drive. It's quite a tedious process. Quite big heavy tires we have. Okay, this will be on the game drive channel for a second.